Hello everybody, my name is Elena. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm bringing you part 2 of my Throne of Glass reading vlog. So if you haven't seen part 1, that is the video where I read The Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and Heir of Fire. So if you haven't seen that video, go watch that one and then come back to this one for the last 4 books. And if you've already seen that video, welcome to this one. In this video, I'm going to be reading these books. Oh, they're so heavy. Hold on. There we go. Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash. I've heard a lot of people say that Empire of Storms ends on a cliffhanger. And Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn are happening at the same time, but at a different part of the world, I guess. And it follows different characters. So after this one, and the cliffhanger in this one, you have to stop and go back and reread, like, I guess that whole situation again, but from a different point of view and in a different part of the world. And a lot of people find this book boring because of it, because they just want to get to the last book and see what happens, right? See how the series ends. So a lot of people recommend a tandem read. And that's how I'm going to be reading these books. And I'll probably talk more about it when I get to them. But there's a guide that I'm going to be using. I saw it on TikTok. And again, I'll link it and stuff like that. For now, we're going to be reading Queen of Shadows. So just in case you need a reminder for the first video, I gave The Assassin's Blade 4 stars. I gave Throne of Glass 4.5 stars. Crown of Midnight, I gave 4.25 stars. And then Heir of Fire, I gave 4.75 stars. So out of those 4, Heir of Fire was my favorite. I don't know what date it is. It's like the 22nd, I guess, of August. I don't remember, but I finished Queen of Shadows. And can we just get a round of applause for the first 5-star book of the Throne of Glass series? I know. I'm so excited to talk about it. I rated it 5 stars. It was really good. I don't think it's a shock to anyone that I rated it 5 stars. I feel like a lot of people say that Queen of Shadows is one of the best books in the series, or at least that's what I've heard on TikTok. My favorite part of this book was Elide. Again, with the names. I'm so sorry. She was my favorite part to read about, her and Manon, because I feel like they made like a really good team. Oh my god. Okay. Chaol in this book is so fucking annoying. He acts like a literal toddler in the beginning of this book. And listen, you learn to kind of like him or at least tolerate him by the end of it. But some of the things that he said to Aelin were honestly kind of unforgivable. Like, he called her a monster. Excuse you? Oh, and the way that she was, like, explaining the whole plot of Air and Fire and, like, what happened over there and the magic and stuff like that and all the things that she's learned. And his response is, oh, so you came here alone. That's what you gathered from the story? You don't get to act jealous. You have no right to be jealous. Oh my god, the reunion scene between Aelin and Rowan? I knew it was happening on page 233. And I think I mentioned that, so I wanted to get to that point, and I did. And it was adorable. That scene is actually what made me read Throne of Glass, because I kept seeing it on TikTok, like specifically that scene, and I was like, I have to read the books now. And look at me. I've finished this one. I only have 3 books left. Oh my god. Aedion is Gavriel's son? Rowan just drops that bomb on us. He's like, oh, like, you can't see the similarities? Like, he's Gavriel's son. Excuse me? Am I supposed to be okay after that information? I need to know more. Hello? The way Rowan thinks about Aelin makes me want to scream into the void. Because it says, Rowan waited, knowing she was gathering her words, hating the pain and the sorrow and the guilt on every line of her body. He'd sell his soul to the dark god to never have her look like that again. Lysandre's a shapeshifter. That was also a bomb dropped by Rowan just while they were, like, having dinner. I was like, sir, can you please at least give us a warning before you do shit like this? Because I need to mentally, physically prepare myself for everything that you're about to say. I've blocked this scene out from my mind when Aelin and Rowan go to Sam's grave to visit his grave because she finally knows where it is because Arobynn told her. That little shit. Anyways, that scene wrecked me. I was sobbing. I wasn't okay, especially because, like, she smelled the pine and snow before she'd heard him, and when she turned, Rowan stood a few feet away, staring at the headstone behind her. I know who he was to you, Rowan said softly, and held out his hand, not for hers, but for a stone. Because they put pebbles instead of flowers on the graves because they last forever. Because, like, flowers, like, wilt and die. She opened her fist, and he sorted through the pebbles until he found one smooth and round, the size of a hummingbird's egg. With gentleness that cracked her heart, he set it on the headstone beside her own pebbles. Manon and Elaid, I'm so sorry, have this, like, really nice talk, and Elaid says, for 10 years until I came here, I endured Vernon because of her, because of the hope that she got away, and my mother's sacrifice wasn't in vain. I thought that one day Aelin would come save me, would remember I existed and rescue me from the tower. Even though she never came, even though I'm here now, I can't let go of that, and I think that's why you obey, because you've been hoping every day of your miserable, heinous life that you'll get to go home. My heart dropped to my ass at that scene where Evangeline shows up at their door and she's like, they took Lysandra. What do you mean they took Lysandra? What do you mean? I was scared. I was like, she's gonna die and I can't do it. Content warning and trigger warning for miscarriage and stillbirth, and that's just content warnings for that. Whenever this stops being on the screen, you can unmute the video again. I just need to talk about it for a second. It's the way that all she wanted to do was hold her baby, and that stupid grandmother wouldn't even let her, and then they burned her. Like, they burned the baby, the witchling. Nothing you could have told me could have prepared me for that. It was so sad. And that's Manon's turning point, and I think it was a really good turning point. I think that was done really well. Oh, and then there's that scene where they're rescuing Lysandra, and Rowan gets shot by Manon. When that scene is happening, Aelin actually saves Manon from that boulder because she could have just let her fall and die, but she didn't. She saved her. And he asks her, like, oh, why'd you save her? She goes, because that golden-haired witch, Astrid, she screamed Manon's name the way that I screamed yours. How can I take away somebody who means the world to someone else, even if she's my enemy? I'm gonna cry again. Can I please stop crying? I'm on my period. That's why, like, I'm crying at every scene, but, like, please, just let me get through this video. I thought you were dying. It seemed like bad luck to let her die out of spite. And falling into a ravine seemed like a pretty shitty way for someone to die who fights that spectacularly. And the scene where they free magic, I had chills all throughout that scene. Like, it was so good. And then there was that scene with the king of Adarlan, whatever. That reveal, I was like, what is going on? I felt like I'd been slapped across the face, and everything that I thought I knew was just destroyed and ripped to shreds. Dorian, the whole book, was just having an awful time. Awful, absolutely awful time. And that scene, well, Caltaine, I think her name is, like, the girl that was working for the Duke, like, we meet her in Throne of Glass as well. When she tells Elaid, like, you find Selenas or Dorothy and give her this. No one else. Tell her that you can open any door if you have the key. Tell her to remember her promise to me to punish them all. When she asks why, tell her I said that they would not let me bring the cloak she gave me, but I kept a piece of it, to remember that promise she made, to remember to repay her for a warm cloak in a cold dungeon. And I just wish we also could have saved Caltaine, but we couldn't. And that's fine. Well, it's not fine. I'm really sad about it. This is when I kind of started forgiving Chaol when he, like, sacrifices himself to the king, but then he doesn't die and stuff like that. And I really actually adore the friendship between Chaol and Dorian. And when Dorian finally comes into Chaol's room, it says, Chaol's vision blurred. She'd done it. Aelin had done it. I can't read it out. Chaol's face crumbled. I didn't realize I looked that bad, Dorian said, his voice raw. He knew then that the demon inside the prince was gone. Chaol wept. So did I. I also wept. I really like the way that Terrasen is actually, like, explained, because I feel like it looks so beautiful. Like, I genuinely, like, want to see it. It says, Aedion touched her shoulder. Welcome home, Aelin. A land of towering mountains, the staghorn spread before them with valleys and rivers and hills, a land of untamed wild beauty, Teresen, and the smell of pine and snow. How would she never realize that Rowan's scent was of Teresen, of home? How many times am I gonna get punched straight in the heart? Like, there's only so many blows that I can take. Rowan came close enough to graze her shoulder and murmured, I feel as if I've been looking for this place my entire life. Oh, not quite daring to believe she wasn't still asleep, Aelin walked towards that rock, whispering the song of thanks to Mala Firebringer for leading her to this place, this moment. Aelin ran a hand over the rough rock, and the sun-warmed stone tingled as if in greeting. Then she stopped. I cannot believe I'm crying. Then she stepped beyond the stone, and at long last, Aelin Ashriver Galanthinius was home. Okay, great. Thanks for that. That's all I have to say about Queen of Shadows. It's a lot of days later, and I don't look too hot, but I desperately need to update because, well, there's a lot to update on. So I said I was going to do the tandem read, right? And I did get a decent, well, no, that's a lie. I got like a little bit into the tandem read, as you can see right here, and then I stopped and had to ditch it. It was way too time consuming. It put me in a mini reading slump, which is why I still haven't finished Empire of Storms. But what I decided to do when I ditched the tandem read was actually read Tower of Dawn before Empire of Storms. Because if we go back to this little like spreadsheet or whatever, there's a romantic way to read the books, and it places Tower of Dawn before Empire of Storms and Kingdom of Ash. So you don't have to have the cliffhanger looming over your head while you're trying to read Kingdom of Ash. I mean, Tower of Dawn, sorry. So that's what I decided to do. And I thought I was gonna have to suffer through this. I thought that I would have to, like, you know, be mad at it, be bored to death, and, you know, cry about how I didn't care. And it ended up being one of my favorite books in the series because I gave this 4.75 stars. And just as a reminder, I gave Heir of Fire 4.75 stars. Chaol, I love. I adore him. I love his character. I liked him before as well, but I did feel like he needed kind of like a redemption arc just for me to love him, and that did it. Like, this book did it. I love him. I adore him. Until page 150, I thought that Chaol was supposed to end up with Nesryn. And I would just, like, as a side note, like to say that Nesryn's chapters were so fucking boring, and that's the only reason why this book is not 5 stars, because I could not care less for Nesryn. Anyways, I thought they were going to be together, and honestly, I wasn't too happy about it. And he ended up with Yrene, and I could not be happier. And the exact moment that I knew was with the teacup scene. It was really cute. And that's when I knew. I was like, are they going to be together? And listen, I Googled it. There's one thing about me where if I don't know who the person is going to end up with, I have to Google it. I'm sorry. I just have to. I can't take the heartbreak of liking one of, like, the love interests and them not being together at the end. Tell me why Chaol was so funny in the book. I have not, I don't think this man has made me laugh in the other books, but he made me laugh multiple times in this one. In this particular one, when they were going to, with Yrene to train, like, the other healers from the tower, like, for self-defense and stuff like that, there were people around him going, like, oh, he's so dashing, he's so beautiful. And in his mind, he goes, wait until you see my dismount. I really liked him in this book. Like, I think he's actually, like, one of my favorite characters in the series now. Like, this book was that good. The thing I was talking about with Nesryn, she runs off with the prince, and then leaves Chaol one singular note, like a little letter, in front of his door. She doesn't even tell him it, like, face to face. Like, she writes a letter. And I have to read you the letter. I've gone with Sir Tog to see the Rukh-him. I shall be gone 3 weeks. I hold you to no promises, and I will hold to none of my own. Here's what rubs me the wrong way about this. I understand that he made her a promise, like, oh, let's go on an adventure. But how do you, in good conscience, whatever, how do you, as a person, look at someone who's paralyzed, right? His legs don't work, and you go, well, you know what? You promised me an adventure, but I didn't get it, so I'm gonna run off with this other man, that will give me 3 weeks of fun. Excuse me? Like, I read that and I was like, girl, what are you doing? And then he felt like so guilty about it, as if like his legs not working is his fault. Oh my god, the scene where Yrene shoves the princess into like the pool or the pond or whatever, that was the most shocking moment of the book for me. I'm gonna be honest, no other plot twist was as shocking to me as that moment, and that's when I knew like that I adored Yrene. And oh, Chaol's gift to Yrene, like the little locket that has like rivers and mountains and cliffs or whatever like engraved in them. Yeah, he gives her the gift, but it's what he says that makes it special. She goes mountains and seas, and he says, so you never forget that you climbed them and crossed them, that only you got yourself here. Oh, this plot twist at the end, they're like, oh, we're waiting for the Queen of the Volg, and then Nesryn talking to the spiders like, oh, like, who's the queen? And she goes, well, in this world she goes by the name of Maeve. Excuse the fuck out of me. What do you mean, Queen of the Volg? So Chaol dies very briefly, or he's gonna die, and then we have that scene with all of the healers, and I got chills reading that scene, where all of them heal her. And then she's talking to this like entity that looks like Hafiza but isn't Hafiza. And she makes this deal to save Chaol. The deal that she made was that they're connected. So if he dies, she dies. If she dies, he dies. But also, when she drains all of her magic or whatever healing, he's still gonna have to be in the chair, like, because his legs won't work. And she's feeling like kind of guilty about it. And Chaol goes, using the chair is not a punishment. It is not a prison. It never was. And I am as much of a man in that chair or with that cane as I am standing on my feet. And she goes, I wanted to heal you. And his response is, you did. Yrene, in every way that truly mattered, you did. I swear to God, they're one of my favorite relationships in this series. And I really liked the scene afterwards where Chaol like stands up from the chair and hugs Nesryn, and I liked that scene. I really liked the scene as Nesryn's eyes widen as Chaol at last got to his feet, taking Yrene with him. His movements were as smooth as any maneuver he might have made without the invisible brace of Yrene's magic flowing between them. Nesryn wiped away her eyes as Chaol closed the distance between them and embraced her tightly. Thank you, he said in Nesryn's ears. She squeezed him back. Thank you for bringing me here to all of this. You know, I'm kind of glad she got her happy ending. I just wish she didn't do it in that way with Chaol. And then we finally get the scene where she shows him the little note that Aelin gave her all those years ago. And she shows it to Chaol, and I knew he was going to recognize the handwriting. That's why the whole book I was like, show him! And then it happens like in the last pages. I like that it happened like right at the end, but the whole book I was like, show him the little note. And I really liked that. And also, just before we go on, they're married. Yrene and Chaol are married. He's like getting emotional over it, and Yrene's like, what's going on? And he's just in his feelings. He's like, Chaol looked up at last, blinking away the tears as he scanned his wife's face. Every beautiful line, those golden eyes, a gift. A gift from a queen who had seen another woman in hell and thought to reach back a hand, with no thought of it ever being returned. A moment of kindness, a tug on a thread. I'm gonna cry again because I sobbed reading this. And then she's like, oh, I guess I can, like, throw it away now. And then Chaol folded the note along its well-worn lines and carefully set it back in Yrene's locket. Keep it for a little while, he said softly. I think there's someone who will want to see that. And then this also killed me. It says, every step, every curve into darkness, every moment of despair and rage and pain, it had led him to precisely where he needed to be, where he wanted to be. A moment of kindness from a young woman who ended lives to a young woman who saved them. I am personally offended by this book, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and then the book ends, and then we have Fireheart. Okay, I think I know some things from TikTok about what's gonna happen in Kingdom of Ash. I know there's something to do with a mask and torture. But this, When I was reading this, Fireheart, it's like, what, 2 pages? 3 pages? It's like barely 2 pages. It's probably like 1 page if you put them together. My heart drops to my ass reading it. Whenever I think about the fact that I'm gonna have to at some point read that in Kingdom of Ash, I like feel physically sick. Like I feel like I'm gonna start hyperventilating reading it. That's like a physical reaction that I'm having every time I have to think about it. Like my stomach is in knots. And now I'm reading Empire of Storms really slowly, and I actually stopped for like a bunch of days because I wanted to watch Criminal Minds. So the tandem read kind of put me in a mini slump. But would you like to take a guess what date it is? I promise you'll get it wrong. It is October 21st, 2023. Thank God for that. And that's how long it's been since the last clip that you saw. Why? Because I was in a reading slump. I put myself in a reading slump and I couldn't continue the series, and I refused to force myself to read them. I knew I wouldn't enjoy them as much if I forced myself to read them, so I just stopped and took a break. But I'm back. I'm back in full swing because I finished Empire of Storms. I was reading this book, I calculated, for 57 days. And I still gave it 5 stars. You can say that this book is one of the best in the series. It is literally so good. I don't think anyone has ever said that this isn't one of the best books in the series. Like, I think it's very wildly confirmed in the fandom that this is one of the best ones, and it's like a fan favorite. I get it. I understand. Totally warranted. Do you know what arcs I loved in this book? Elide and Lorcan and Manon. Astrid is kneeling in front of Manon, and she says, "Bring my body back to the cabin." Something in Manon's chest broke so violently that she wondered if it was possible for no one to have heard it. Manon lifted her sword. All it would take was one word from Astrid, and she could save her own hide, spill Manon's secrets, her betrayals, and she'd walk free. Yet her second uttered no other word. And Manon understood in that moment that there were forces greater than obedience and discipline and brutality. Understood that she had not been born soulless, she had not been born without a heart, for there were both, begging her not to swing that blade. My love for Abraxos, again, another name that I don't know how to pronounce, is so much bigger than what I can do and say and put into words. Just know that I adore him with everything in my being, and if anything happens to him, that's it for me. I don't completely remember what the context of this scene was. I think Aelin did something and then was kind of scared of her power because, yes, it can save people, but it can also kill people. I think it was something like that. I don't completely remember the scene, but I have it tabbed because Rowan's comforting her, and I really liked the way he put it into words, just like I like everything else that he puts into words. This new depth to your power, Aelin, changes nothing. What Deanna did changes nothing. You are still young. Your power is still growing. And if this new well of power gives us even the slightest advantage against Erwin, then thank the rutting darkness for it. But you and I will learn to manage your power together. You do not face this alone. You do not decide that you are unlovable because you have powers that can save and destroy. If you start to resent that power, he shook his head, I do not think we will win this war if you start going down that road. Dorian, this whole book, is just not having a very good time. And I really liked that one scene where he's kind of remembering what he did while he was like possessed and stuff like that, and what people did to him. And he's talking to Manon, and Manon says, "Remember what they made you do," Manon said, "when you face them again." And I really liked that subtle kind of like advice that she gave him. And I love them very much, and I love the whole slow burn kind of relationship that they have going on. Whatever it is, I like it. Oh my god, that scene with Elide and Lorcan when Vernon finds her and she thinks that Lorcan left. And then Lorcan actually comes back and like saves her, but she's the one like killing the Ilkin or whatever they're called. And it's just this, you know what? I'm gonna read you what she said, and it is the biggest slay in the universe. "But it seems like tonight isn't really your night," Elide said to the Ilkin, lifting the hatchet again over her shoulder. The Ilkin might have been whimpering as she smiled grimly, "because it only takes one to deliver a message, and your companions are already on their way." The axe fell. Speaking of Elide and Lorcan, when they actually meet up with Aelin and everyone else, which I didn't think was going to happen in this book. For some reason, I thought every, like, reunion was happening in Kingdom of Ash, and that's not the case. When that happened, you know how Fenris and Gavriel have that mission from Maeve to kill Lorcan? And then Elide puts herself in danger to save Lorcan? I was sobbing reading that scene. You don't understand. Lorcan's onyx eyes were unreadable as he scanned her face, and then he said quietly, "I wanted to go to Perenth with you." Lorcan dropped the shield. That's depressing in and of itself, but this is what really killed me. Lorcan had been born from and gifted with darkness. Returning to it was not a difficult task, but letting that glimmering, lovely light before him die out, in his ancient, bitter bones he could not accept it. She had been forgotten by everyone and everything, and she still had hoped, and still had been kind to him, and still she had offered him a glimpse of peace in the time that he'd known her. She had offered him a home. Ansel showing up! Oh my god, if you saw the first part of this video, I really loved Ansel, and I loved, like, that whole story, and that one was my favorite out of the Assassin's Blade. Like, that short story was my favorite, and the fact that she shows up, and I'm so happy. You know what's not funny? The fact that Aelin has to literally sacrifice herself in order to save Teresin. What do you mean? Oh, no. No. I was reading that whole thing and I was like, absolutely not. That witch mirror with Elena and what she was, like, showing her and everything. You just got so many answers in this book, and I can't even, like, explain them to you because I was so overwhelmed reading it. Like, you were so young, Elena said again, and more than the dreams, more than the depth, I wanted to give you time to at least know what it was to live. But I send you to Wendlyn for the healing, so you would find him, the one that had been waiting so long for you. Aelin's heart cracked. Rowan. Elena nodded. He was a voice in the world, a secret, silent dreamer, and so were his companions, but the Fae Prince, he was. Aelin reined in her sob. I know. I've known for a long time. Which we later find out is because he's her mate. I wanted you to know that joy too, Elena whispered, however briefly. And then Maeve shows up, and then she's gonna kidnap Aelin, and that whole thing. And then Aelin turns to Elide and says, "And tell Rowan," Aelin's soul splintered as she saw the iron box the escorts now carried between them, an ancient iron coffin, big enough for one person, crafted for her. "And tell Rowan," Aelin said, fighting her own sob, "that I'm sorry I lied, but tell him it was borrowed time anyways. Even before today, I knew it was all just borrowed time, but I still wish we had more of it." She fought past her trembling mouth. "Tell him he has to fight. He must save Teresin, and remember the vows he made to me. And tell him thank you for walking that dark path with me back to the light." And then Cairn, whatever the fuck his name is, carries that whip, and he starts whipping her. And they keep telling her, like, oh, count, and she's not counting, so they keep doing it more. It was breaking my heart. And then the ending of that chapter, when she eventually does get kidnapped, is time. She was grateful Elena had given her that stolen time. Grateful that she had met them all, that she had seen some small part of the world, had heard such lovely music, had danced and laughed and known true friendship. Grateful that she had found Rowan. She was grateful. So Aelin Galanthinius dried her tears and did not fight when Maeve strapped that beautiful iron mask over her face. That blasted mask! Rowan hissed, "Where is my wife?" Lorcan swayed where he knelt. Wife. Oh gods. Elide sobbed as she overheard, the words carrying the sound of Lorcan's own fractured heart. Oh gods. And for the first time in centuries, Lorcan wept. Because he was the one that brought Maeve to them. So if he didn't, then Aelin wouldn't have been taken. And then Lorcan figures out that they were mates, and he's so upset about it, and he feels so bad. And she had married Whitethorn, so Teresin could have a king. Perhaps had been spurred into action because she knew Lorcan had already betrayed her, that Maeve was coming, and Lorcan had not helped her. Whitethorn's wife, his mate. And I felt so bad for Lorcan. I know a lot of people are mad at him, and I get it, but I couldn't. I adore her with everything in my heart. Aelin is literally one of my favorite characters I've ever read, if not, like, my favorite. Like, if Maximoff Hale didn't exist, she would be there, and they might actually be on the same level. I will get back to you on that when I finish Kingdom of Ash. But her character growth is so good. I adore her. And I'm spoiled because of TikTok, so I know the mask scene in Kingdom of Ash, and I'm supposed to be reading it right now. I'm gonna read it later on today. And I know that, and I know the whole take it off scene. I don't want to talk about it. Every single scene that I've read with Aelin from Kingdom of Ash, because I did start it, has killed me, and I have cried. The only time I didn't cry was when I was reading it in class, because I was in class and I didn't want to cry in class. But if I was at home, I would have been sobbing. I had to Google when they save Aelin in Kingdom of Ash because I couldn't do it. Like, I need to know when it happens so I can get to that point. So I know it's page, like, 364, I think. So I have 100 pages. I'm gonna get there today because I can't take it anymore. I can't take the torture of Aelin anymore. She just deserves the whole world and deserves nothing of what's happening to her. And the whole thing with Fenris, I don't want to talk about it, okay? It's just a very painful time right now. I'm now gonna go finish the Sims build that I started last night so I can wind down, and then we're gonna read Kingdom of Ash. I cannot believe I've been filming this video for so long that I've gone through a hair color change, but that's besides the point. I finished Kingdom of Ash like a week and a half ago, and I kid you not, I couldn't talk about it, so I didn't. But now I'm here. I'm at a good place in my life where I can talk about it. Firstly, this is 5 stars for me. I adored this book. I adored how big it was. I adored everything that happened in it. And by that, I mean, it was very well written. Oh, my bed is so messy. This is a 5-star series for me. I love Throne of Glass. Aelin is literally my favorite character I've read, like, of all time. She's right there next to Maximoff from the Like Us series. They are untouchable. Like, I adore this woman. This girl, this woman, love her. Love her. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, even though it's like the last book and I should, but like this video is gonna be so freaking long. So I'm just gonna go over like basic plot lines or whatever. Aelin getting tortured? No. I'm not gonna talk about it. We're leaving it at that. I'm gonna pretend that it never happened because I'm scarred. I felt really bad for Fenris, and I adore Fenris, but I will say my favorite has always been Gavriel. And the fact that he died at the end, that's it. No, I don't have anything to say. I'm just really super upset about it. And I thought that when Aelin was gonna get rescued, there would be this like big reunion scene with Rowan. I'm so glad there wasn't. Because the way that it happened in the book was so much more, like, realistic for what she went through, and I loved it. I love how Rowan was so gentle with her. I love that he was there for her because that's exactly what she needed. And now let's talk about the sacrificing. The fact that all of them voted for Aelin to sacrifice herself instead of Dorian, except for Rowan and Fenris. I couldn't do it. And then Rowan was like, well, you didn't vote. And she goes, it doesn't matter. Because her vote doesn't matter because they already voted. No. I don't think I can ever forgive them for that. I'm so sorry. I felt so bad. And I knew that she wasn't going to, like, die. I knew that, but it killed me anyways. And the whole plot line with Dorian's dad, the fact that we don't know his name and Nameless is my price, like, that was genius. The fact that, like, he stepped in, that was so good. And then you realize that, oh, you don't actually know his name. And right at the end when they're killing Erwin, Dorian's, like, asking him, like, what's his name? Like, I need to know his name. What's his name? And then right before he dies, Erwin tells him, like, it's yours. Because he literally erased everything from like, his dad and tried to, like, I don't know how to explain it, but you get it. Like, he tried to control him or whatever and make him forget all the things that made him him. And he remembered his name once. And out of spite, literally out of spite and rebellion, he named Dorian because that was his name. And listen, I cried at a lot of points in this book, but nothing compares to how much I cried when the 13 died. And the fact that I thought right before then that Abraxos was gonna die, no. I would have died if Abraxos died. He didn't, obviously, because I'm right here. But the 13 and Manon, and I felt so bad. The you do not yield part, yeah, no. I was not okay. Also, the take it off. No. I adore Elide. Yeah, I realize it's Elide from TikTok. It's not Elide. I love Elide and Lorcan so much. They are like one of my favorite ships, along with Kale and Yurine. And I love the fact that she's pregnant. I'm assuming that not a lot of people like it because people have very big opinions on pregnancy in books. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was adorable, cute, amazing. Loved it. Yeah, so after Aelin comes back, there is one line right at the beginning of chapter 66, and I have written down, "This is a lethal blow." Aelin awoke to the scent of pine and snow, and she knew she was home. Not in Terrasen, not yet, but in the sense that she would always be home if Rowan was with her. Dude, the tattoo on Aelin's back, and the fact that Rowan tattooed word keys? What was it? No. Word marks? Word marks. He tattooed word marks on her back, and it was the way home. And the fact that she passed through worlds and she saw Rhys and Feyre from ACOTAR while Feyre was pregnant, and the fact that he like broke her fall so she wouldn't like skip over the world that she was supposed to be in, which is their world, that is insane to me. And I'm so excited to read Crescent City because I know a lot of shit goes down in that book, and I'm so excited about all of it. Ah yes, Manon Mourning the 13, where she's just there and she's crying. I'm gonna read it out to you. For hours Manon knelt on the battlefield, Abraxas at her side, as if she may stay with them, her 13, for a little while longer. And far away across the snow-covered mountains, on a barren plain before the ruins of a once great city, a flower began to bloom. And I didn't realize what the flower meant when I read that, and then realized afterwards that means the curse is broken, because nothing was ever supposed to thrive on that, like, plain, until the curse was broken. And that means the curse was broken. Their sacrifice broke it. Manon broke it. I can't, no. Live, Manon, live. And the fact that Manon says it to Elide afterwards, she says, live, Elide, live. Are you kidding me? How am I even alive after reading this book? You know, like I think it was in Empire of Storms. I don't think it's in Kingdom of Ash, when she goes, the queen who was promised, but not to the people, to the gods, or something like that. No longer the queen who was promised, the queen who walked between worlds. She would not go quietly. She was not afraid. I adore Aelin with every bit of my heart. I'm so sorry. I love her so much. And then she comes back and she doesn't have her powers anymore. And I was a bit devastated, but then I read this and I was like, all is good in the world. Perhaps it had been a final gift of Malos too, to perceive this piece of her that now formed in her hand, a droplet of water, her mother's gift. What Aelin had sworn until the end, had not wanted to part with until the very last dregs of her were given to the lock, to the word gate. Aelin held out another hand, and a kernel of flame sputtered to life within it. An ordinary gift, a firebringer no more, but Aelin all the same. Oh my god, okay, one thing I love about Rowan is how much he cares about Sam, because he knows how much Sam means to Aelin. And I loved this scene. Aelin threw herself at the rungs, lining up the catapult's wheel's base, and began pushing, turning it away from Orinth, from the castle, precisely as Aelin had told him Sam Cortland had done in Skulls Bay. The catapult's mechanisms allowed her to rotate its base. Rowan wondered if the young assassin was smiling now, smiling to see her heaving that catapult into position, all the way to the siege tower at its left. He's just constantly thinking about him, and I love that. Rowan is like one of my favorite male main characters I've ever read about. I absolutely adore that scene afterwards where they're in Terrasen and then she's like, oh, can none of us sleep? Because they all gather on like this balcony and there's like blood where Erwin was killed, and she's like, we're putting a rug over it. And then Lysandra's like, I hope it's something really tacky. I love that whole scene. It was so comfy, cozy, I loved it. The way that I forgot Abraxos was mated and his mate literally died. And I only remembered when Aelin was sitting down next to Manon. And Manon was like trying to keep it together, and then she realized that Aelin's the only person who she can like actually like be upset with because she's gone through the same thing. I love frenemies. I love them. And then the crowning scene and the fact that, like, the little folk gave her a crown as well. And they were like, you're our queen too. Oh my god. And instead of an epilogue, it says a better world because that's what she promised everyone. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, what was the reason to kill me even more? And then right at the end, I'll read it out to you. For across every mountain, spread beneath the green canopy of Oakwald, carpeting the entire plain of Terralis, the King's Flame was blooming. And King's Flame, I forgot what it meant, so I went back and, like, figured it out. King's Flame blooms when there is a really good ruler on the throne and when there is finally peace. And the fact that it started blooming, it was a perfect ending. I adore this book with my whole heart. And I cannot believe I'm saying this, but that is the end of this, like, reading vlog and this journey. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. I will now recap my books, like my favorite books. Let me just go get them. Ranking all of the books, even though I love all of them, I will still rank them. Ranking them from least favorite to most favorite. We have The Assassin's Blade with 4 stars. Crown of Midnight with 4.25 stars. Throne of Glass with 4.5 stars. Tower of Dawn at 4.75 stars. Heir of Fire at 4.75 stars. Queen of Shadows at 5 stars. Empire of Storms at 5 stars. And then lastly, Kingdom of Ash at 5 stars. This one's my favorite. Are we surprised? No. I'm a sucker for last books in the series, and I adore this book. And honestly, when I think about it now, the books I think I would have the most fun rereading are Heir of Fire and Tower of Dawn. And I realized that I didn't even rate these books 5 stars, but they're so close to being 5 stars. There's something about these two that's really special. Like, I think these might be one of my personal favorites, even though the ratings aren't 5 stars. And I rated other books 5 stars. I have a soft spot for these two. And that is the end of this video. I'm just gonna now compile all of them. Look at that. I read all of these and plus another book. That is the end of this video. I already talked about favorite characters. I literally love all of them, but Aelin and Rowan are like my favorites. And I really love Manon. And honestly, Manon and Abraxas's like friendship is probably my favorite. I love it. But yeah, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Part 1 is already posted if you'd like to watch it. And you can like, comment, subscribe if you'd like. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.